Hello, and welcome back to Accreditation Unlocked. I'm your host, Dr. Ken Clough, and today's episode takes on a topic that feels more relevant than ever: strategic planning in times of uncertainty. If you've been working in higher education for any length of time, you already know that uncertainty isn't a rare disruption anymore. It's become part of the environment we all operate in. Whether it's sudden enrollment shifts, sweeping regulatory changes, or unexpected crises like pandemics, colleges and universities are being asked to adapt faster than ever before. But here's the real challenge. While we adapt, we also need to maintain the integrity of our accreditation commitments. Strategic planning and accreditation are tightly linked, and institutions that succeed in uncertain times are the ones that find a way to align their planning processes with accreditation expectations. Today, we're going to explore how institutions can do just that. We'll talk about the landscape of uncertainty, the role accreditation plays in guiding resilience, and the key strategies you can use to keep your planning strong when the future feels unpredictable. Understanding the landscape of uncertainty. Let's start by naming what we mean when we talk about uncertainty in higher education. First, enrollment shifts. Across the country, institutions are grappling with the so-called demographic cliff. Declining numbers of traditional high school graduates, particularly in the Northeast and Midwest, are forcing colleges to rethink recruitment strategies. At the same time, there's a growing interest in adult learners, career changers, and non-traditional students. For some institutions, that means shifting resources from traditional residential programs to online, hybrid, or certificate-based programs. For others, it means strengthening community partnerships or workforce development initiatives. Second, regulatory changes. If you've been in accreditation work for a while, you've probably seen standards evolve over time. Federal and state governments also continue to play a significant role in shaping the financial aid landscape, reporting requirements, and compliance rules. These changes can ripple quickly through your institution, affecting everything from program approvals to how you report learning outcomes. And third, crises. COVID-19 made this clear in a way none of us will forget. But crises aren't always global pandemics. They can be natural disasters, economic downturns, or campus-specific safety incidents. Each one can disrupt the normal rhythm of institutional life, leaving leaders to figure out how to adjust, respond, and most importantly, document those responses in ways that satisfy accreditors. Uncertainty shows up in different ways, but the common thread is this: it pushes institutions out of their comfort zones, and it requires us to think differently about how we approach planning. The role of accreditation in uncertain times. Now let's connect this to accreditation. Accreditation is often seen as a compliance mechanism. And yes, it absolutely requires us to check certain boxes and demonstrate that we're meeting established standards. But I want to argue that accreditation is also a strategic asset, especially in times of uncertainty. Think about the core principles of accreditation: mission alignment, student learning outcomes, financial stability, governance, and continuous improvement. These are the very same principles that can guide institutions when they're navigating unpredictable terrain. For example, self-studies and mid-cycle reviews aren't just paperwork. They're opportunities to reflect on how well your institution is adapting. Monitoring reports can serve as both accountability tools and planning frameworks, especially if you're documenting adjustments made during a crisis. And most importantly, accreditation requires evidence. When uncertainty hits, institutions that already have systems in place for collecting and analyzing data are the ones that can pivot quickly and show that they're still in compliance, even if circumstances have changed dramatically. In other words, accreditation isn't just about compliance, it's about resilience. It gives us a framework for documenting adaptability and for ensuring that no matter what is happening externally, we remain focused on student success. Key strategies for adaptive strategic planning. So how do institutions actually do this? Let's walk through some of the most effective strategies. Number 1, scenario planning. Scenario planning is about preparing for multiple possible futures rather than betting on a single forecast. For example, you might build 3 scenarios. One where enrollment grows, one where it stays flat, and one where it declines sharply. Each scenario would outline the potential financial, academic, and staffing implications, and importantly, how your institution would continue to meet accreditation requirements under each one. This way, when reality unfolds, you already have a roadmap, and you're not scrambling to figure it out in real time. Scenario planning also makes your accreditation document stronger. It demonstrates foresight, risk management, and a commitment to continuous improvement. Number 2, flexible goal setting. Traditional strategic plans often lock institutions into rigid 5-year goals. But in times of uncertainty, that approach can backfire. Instead, think about creating goals that are measurable but flexible. For example, instead of saying, increase enrollment by 10% in 5 years, you might say, strengthen recruitment and retention strategies to adapt to shifting demographics with measurable progress tracked annually. Notice the difference? The second goal is tied to outcomes accreditors care about, like retention, and it gives you room to adapt as conditions change. Number 3, data-informed decision-making. Data has always been central to accreditation, but in times of uncertainty, it becomes even more critical. Enrollment data, retention rates, student success measures, and market research can help leaders make quick but informed decisions. And because accreditors already expect you to track and analyze these metrics, you're simply leveraging what you should already be doing. For example, if you see enrollment dropping in a particular program, data can help you to decide whether to restructure, invest more resources, or sunset the program. Documenting that process, using assessment systems and data sources already tied to accreditation, ensures that you remain compliant while adapting. Number 4, stakeholder engagement. Finally, let's talk about people. Institutions don't adapt in uncertain times without the support and engagement of their stakeholders. Faculty need to be part of the conversation about curriculum changes. Staff need to understand how shifts affect student services. Boards of trustees need to be aligned with financial strategies. And students themselves deserve a voice, especially when decisions impact their educational experience. Accreditors often look for evidence of stakeholder involvement in planning processes. So by engaging broadly and documenting that engagement, you're not just strengthening your institutional culture, you're also reinforcing your compliance. Leadership in uncertain times. Now let's turn to leadership. Strategic planning in times of uncertainty is ultimately a leadership challenge. Presidents, provosts, chief financial officers, and accreditation liaison officers all play critical roles in shaping how an institution responds. The president's cabinet, for example, often becomes the decision-making hub during crises. But accreditation work can't be sidelined in those moments. Leaders need to weave accreditation into their crisis response and planning conversations. The ALO, in particular, is the bridge between institutional decision-making and accreditation expectations. In uncertain times, that role becomes even more important. The ALO needs to ensure that decisions are documented, evidence is collected, and the institution remains aligned with accreditation standards, even when quick pivots are necessary. Good leadership in uncertain times is about balance. responding to immediate pressures while keeping an eye on long-term strategy. It's about making decisions that preserve resilience without sacrificing compliance. And it's about modeling transparency and trust so that the entire campus community feels confident in the path forward. Practical tips for institutions. Let's pull this down to a practical level. What can institutions do right now to strengthen their strategic planning for uncertain times? Number 1, build contingency planning into your strategic documents. Don't just plan for the ideal scenario, plan for the possible disruptions. Number 2, keep documentation current. Don't wait until the self-study year to gather evidence. Maintain accreditation-ready records at all times. Number 3, use accreditation language consistently. Bring accreditation terminology into board reports, faculty meetings, and budget discussions. This creates alignment and keeps everyone on the same page. Number 4, invest in training. Provide workshops for leaders, faculty, and staff on adaptive planning frameworks, data use, and accreditation standards. Number 5, stay connected with your accreditor. Regular communication can help you clarify expectations and demonstrate good faith when things change unexpectedly. These practical steps can help institutions move from reactive to proactive and from fragile to resilient. Looking ahead. So where does this leave us? The truth is, uncertainty isn't going away. Demographic cliffs, technological disruptions like artificial intelligence, and evolving regulations will continue to reshape higher education. But institutions that embrace adaptive, accreditation-linked planning will be positioned not only to survive, but to thrive. Accreditation can and should be a catalyst for this kind of resilience. It's not just a set of hoops to jump through. It's a framework that, if used well, can strengthen your institution's ability to adapt, innovate, and remain mission-centered. Conclusion. As we wrap up today's episode, here's the takeaway. Strategic planning in uncertain times isn't about predicting the future with absolute certainty. It's about preparing your institution to adapt, aligning that preparation with accreditation standards, and keeping student success at the center of every decision. If you're listening to this and thinking about your own institution's strategic plan, I'd encourage you to take a fresh look. Where are you building in flexibility? How are you using data to guide decisions? And most importantly, how are you documenting your adaptability for accreditation purposes? Remember, uncertainty doesn't have to weaken your institution. With the right strategies, it can be an opportunity to strengthen resilience, demonstrate leadership, and show accreditors that your institution is committed to continuous improvement, no matter what challenges arise. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Accreditation Unlocked. If you'd like more support, resources, or guidance on accreditation and strategic planning, I invite you to connect with the Accreditation Collaborative. Together, we can help your institution not only meet accreditation standards, but also thrive in times of uncertainty. Until next time, I'm Dr. Ken Clough, reminding you that every challenge is also an opportunity, especially when you approach it with a strategic, accreditation-linked mindset.